Hello, Success Academy Union Square, second through fourth grade scholars. I'm so happy to come and present another video to you today. Again, as a reminder, these videos are not for my top scholars. These are things we've addressed and gone over, but I do want to talk to those up and coming second graders and those lower level club kids who could use the extra refresher and practice. If you are in club, just remember that coming to the team battles on Wednesdays and Fridays is always helpful. And I've been playing many of you on the team on Lichess as I've seen you online. So continue to use those resources as well as your ChessKid accounts. So let's get right into it. Today I want to talk about one of the most famous checkmate patterns in the world in chess history, and it is called the Greek gift. Not the Greek freak. I know we have Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Milwaukee Bucks, but in fact, in chess, this is like the Greek freak, but we're going to call this the Greek gift, okay? And it requires a bishop. It requires a knight, and it requires a queen. Okay, and these three magical pieces are going to help us destroy the pawn cover. The pawn cover is very important to address in chess, as normally the king starts on the e file and you castle the king. This king is currently castled with the rook in order to build this nice wall of protection. But this does not mean that this wall is built to last or built to stay strong forever. If we can begin to have pieces target these squares, then we are on to a good start. So we must identify every check in the position, and even including the silly ones. Silly checks that lose more points than you gain, sometimes, not all the time, friends, can be considered a sacrifice. And sometimes we sacrifice material in order to open up the position and destroy pawn cover, to gain material on the back end to set up a cool tactic. But in this position, we're going to do it to set up a checkmate. So right now, we must identify all our checks. And if we do that, we only see one check here. But you're going to get 1 point when capturing the pawn. But when the king captures back, you're going to lose 3. So Mr. Vantu, why are you suggesting this to us if we're going to lose material? Now, let's get right into it. Bishop takes h7 check, okay? Now, the best move is probably just to slide your king over to h8, but how many people are going to give up an opportunity to take 3 points for 1? So king takes h7. After king takes h7, there's a very interesting move here with another check. We have to continue to look for our checks. So we have these 3 basic checks here that all point towards the king. But I think once we do that, we can just block with the move g6, and I think we're going to be okay. Not okay, because, I mean, we do have a queen for a rook, and we're up sufficient material, but I think the king can survive a mating pattern for now. So we want to look for another check, a check that brings in maybe the helper piece, because we know this queen is much faster, and this queen can get anywhere around the king in one simple move. Yes, we do see another check. Knight g5 check is very interesting. So with this move, we have a few options. The king could come out to g6. If the king comes out to g6, then we have this interesting move of h4. h4 protects our knight, and now it allows more checks from the queen to come in. Okay? But of course, this king needs shelter. So this king is going to back up to g8. And now once this king is on g8, this knight is controlling 2 very important squares. Yes, one is h7, this escape square. But there's another important square that this knight is guarding. Yes, f7. f7 is very important here because the knight also stops the king from running out after a move like f6. So now, this knight is going to need some help. We have 1 attacker, only 1 defender. We need more attackers than defenders in order to capture or to aggressively control a square. So how could we get another piece to, again, attack this h7 square? Again, if you use the squares d3, c2, or b1, I like it, but I think a move like g6 will stop this entire diagonal being cut off, and we can no longer attack. So I think queen h5 is a much more aggressive move, because now we have 2 attackers, 1 defender, and we're threatening what? Checkmate. You guys are awesome. So after this move, the rook can decide to move over if it so please, if it so choose. And then we have this very interesting move here. of queen takes check, okay? And now, after this queen takes check move, we force the king over to h8, and it is like a double attack because the knight protects the queen. And once this king moves over, this is no way to escape. The knight controls h7, as we previously stated, and now this pawn on g7 is stopping the king from advancing diagonally to avoid the inevitable checkmate with is queen takes e7. Let's take a look at another example. So now we have this second example. Again, pattern recognition is so important. This position and this position has a key similarity. What would that be? Yes, the bishop, the knight, and the queen. How can we destroy the pawn shelter to begin to open up the king? I agree. We need that sacrificial check. Bishop takes h7 check. King takes. And now we can bring in another check. How? Remember, more attackers than defender. We could give a knight check, but the queen is not allowed to capture because what defends the knight? The bishop. Awesome. You guys are so smart. Knight g5 check. Again, if we move up, I can check this way. And things will eventually get crazy, but I don't want to get off topic. Again, we love a king on the run. A king on the run is never fun. So again, we're just going to aggressively throw our pieces at the king and see what comes of it. If the king backs up to, let's say, g8, and now we have this incredible move again of queen h5. This square is no longer available to the knight to defend h7 because simply we can capture with this pawn, remove the guard, and checkmate the king. King back to h8 is even more so not a great move because it leads to an automatic checkmate after forcing check and mate. Very important to look for all your checks every single move. Now, after queen h5 check, my king, queen h5, the rook could try to move over in order to create an escape plan this way for the king and bring shelter around his pieces. However, we're not going to allow him to escape with this check. This check is not good because, again, it allows the king to escape. And though I'm losing a lot of material, I think I'm okay after this move for now. Here, check, we force the king back to the corner to the edge where a lot of checkmates happen. We want the king forced at the edge, the four corners of the board. Any edge makes the best checkmate. King, so check, king over to h8. And now, after this move, we normally would have captured here, okay, on g8, but that is not quite possible. On e8, we can't capture because if queen takes rook, queen takes queen, and now you're down a queen, and that is no good. So we need another check. The only check that makes sense here is to bring the queen back to h5. The king is forced back over to g8. And now we can play this interesting move of queen f7 check. And after queen f7, black has no time and no other option but to move over to f8. And now it becomes clear why the capture on f7 was very important. Because after queen g8 check now, once the king tries to escape, now because this pawn is protecting and guarding the square, we are now able to capture with checkmate. We cannot run away. The pawn defends or controls the escape square. Whereas in our previous example, if we take right away right now, there is a pawn shelter to guide the king out. Okay? So the difference is we must first remove the f pawn, check, and then we can go in for the mating pattern. There's no f pawn to defend the checkmate. Let's take a look at one more. Again, how should we set up this pattern? Automatically recognition, bishop, knight, check, bishop check, knight check, queen check. Bishop takes h7, king takes h7. The bishop also protects g5, check, king back, mate threat. We must defend this mate threat. This is also escape square that we control because of the knight. Once this rook moves away, we check first. Then we bring the queen back again to h5, king check, queen h7 check, king over to f7. I do like this rook check of rook f1, but I think you prolong the game. If rook f1, you just prolong the game when you don't really have to. We want to make forcing moves, forcing mates. So this check will bring us that force checkmate. Take a look at another example here. Again, same example. Don't be discouraged because there's a bishop here or because you can't see the checks. I think if you just think bishop, knight, queen, your pattern comes to life automatically. This one's throws you off just a little bit. You could go queen h7 here and check, but then the knight can block, and then there's no way out. Well, there's a way. Well, after the knight blocks, then you have to find another way to bring a attack. I think I'm okay now. There's no mate. Ooh, this is a nice actually checkmate. That's pretty cool. So instead, you just want to stick with your pattern and do what you know best, which is to take the f pawn first and force the king this way. Actually, we had it right the first. Oh. Wait, Mr. Vince, who messed up here? Check. Let's do that again. Check. Back. Here. And now, this is checkmate, so we must make room by moving the rook. That is forced. That must happen. We must make room for this rook. And now we have this clever move of queen check, back, check, here, check, here, check, checkmate. Now, let's wrap this video up with a quick test. How would you proceed to make a Greek gift, not a Greek freak, not Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay, not the basketball player. How would you make a Greek gift checkmate here? Calculate all of your checks and forcing moves like we discussed in the last video. Checks, captures, threats are forcing moves. Awesome. Bishop takes check. H7. King takes, because who doesn't want a piece for a pawn? Knight check. King back. Checkmate threat. And then there's no real way to defend if I turn my engine on just to have black make a move. Black tells the queen to take the knight. Why? Because if you do anything else, it's going to lead to checkmate. Check. Checkmate. If we go here, checkmate. If we push this pawn, checkmate. So the forcing move is to just capture. And I would probably take with my pawn as well. And then you can prolong the game for a bit. But I think with these attacking chances, there's not much else that can happen. If you liked today's video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Missing you all. If you have any questions or any videos or mating patterns or any other thing in Game of Chess that you would like to see on a future video, have your parent call or text me or email me, and I will be sure to include it in an upcoming video. Stay safe and see you all soon. Bye.